Guys, welcome back. Today we aren't talking about a topic like I usually do, but we'll be talking about a phrase. The phrase is, as you've seen in the title and thumbnail, do as I say, not as I do. And I remember this phrase from being a child, that was what my father really defaulted to, as basically what it was just an excuse. But what is the sort of like why does everybody use this? Because all this statement is, as you can probably tell, it's just sort of like admitting you're a hypocrite without really wanting to change the fact that you're a hypocrite, which makes you, kind of even worse in a sense. So, it's sort of been a problem, and even people who don't use this phrase in particular, this concept is still extremely prevalent and extremely detrimental to our society because so many of the people we see in politics around the world and jobs and parent situations, any sort of situation of power, what we see is hypocrites. And I'm not saying I'm different than everybody else. Again, this is another sort of power corrupts sort of thing, where most people who have power are hypocritical about it. Do as I say, not as I do, you know? And that's also so hard to really get through the head of somebody because not only does it just sound a little cheap to say, but also we as people, we're very much so, we learn by experiences, we learn by example. So the second that you're doing something, we as humans internalize that, view that as you are a person I look up to. If you're doing this, so should I. And that can very much so lead to very, very many toxic relationships in a leader situation. So many things that can go wrong with that. And it's sort of just not a great time all around. We sort of have this sort of great image for all of the people we look up to, but the second they admit to this phrase, they sort of admit that they're a hypocrite, they lose a bit of credibility to us, but we still are going to learn by their example instead of their action, instead of their words. And I feel like this is especially true because this is mostly used for younger kids. And I feel like this is especially true for them because, like, your early years, you're learning by what you see other people do, not what other people tell you. Actions are more powerful than words. That has so many meanings, and I feel like people always restrain it to just that one. You know, and in a way, this is almost like the best example of something revealing the flaws of humanity. Because if you have a race of people who will willingly admit that they in what they are doing is wrong but make no effort to change that, that is where we start seeing true failure. There are many examples of it throughout history. I won't be naming any of them because there are a lot of them and it's hard to pick. But it's just, and it's not like it's gone away after history. It's not like we've learned from these mistakes. It's almost like we as a society take this phrase to heart. We actually listen to people when they say this. Do as I say, not as I do. And that's also just a really bad way of thinking yourself. If you ever catch yourself in a situation where you could say that and it would be very much so understood by the people you're talking to, you are most likely in the wrong if it's something that you have to say that about. Because there are things where being hypocritical about it might be good. No examples come to mind, but I'm not saying that just being a hypocrite altogether is bad. I'm saying it's usually bad. but I'm not 100% if it's always bad. But if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to justify an action, and that's the only way you can justify it, it's not really justifiable. And I feel like we sort of forget that as a people. Just something to think about. I feel like we've seen this far too often in politics. Again, I really don't like to get political on this channel, nor do I like to talk about religion. What am I doing? But those are usually the two places where we'll see this most. Where we'll see some politician spouting about something that they have no real experience on, and then, you know, and a lot of that is too, is we have just normalized this as society way too much. It's not a good thing to be a hypocrite. It's not a good thing to be able to say to your children, like my father has time and time again, that this is only okay if I do it. Like, that instantly makes you sound kind of like an idiot. And again, I'm not trying to call my father an idiot here. I mean, he kind of was being one whenever he said those things, but he overall isn't. But it's just such a normal thing in our society for people to be hypocritical, and it really shouldn't. It should never be something where that is correct. We should never come down to a situation where being a hypocrite is okay, because the second that you start viewing yourself as if your actions are less bad than everybody else's actions doing the exact same thing, you become the bad guy. Like, and again, I'm not exempting myself from this. I'm not above any of the things I talk about in my videos, and I'll probably say it in most of them. But this is a real problem that we face in our society, and it really shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be. So, I guess that's really it for this one. I do have a lot more of these commentary ideas coming out soon, so if you do like this style of content, maybe subscribe, stick around. Um, of course, these are all videos to start a discussion, not just for me to spout to you guys. So, if you ever in any of my videos have something to add to this topic, well, I'll see you in the comment section.